This was a W210, I think. I don't remember. Mercedes but yeah.
That's the worst one.
This was the last generation we followed.
That's the worst one.
This one already they were recorded.
No, this was one before. Yeah, because it was like 2000, right? It was 99, 2000.
And I'll be giving you guys a tour today. We usually start with a little bit of background and the history of the museum. We were founded in 1994 by my grandfather Dick and my father John. This was originally purchased as a warehouse to house our race team and car collection, but their business of nutritional manufacturing and formulation as the primary manufacturer for Herbalife started really taking off in the 90s, and the car collection kind of got out of hand, and the racing kind of had to be put on standby because they were too busy working. You know, they had 3,000 employees at that time, so everything sat in here for a while undercover, and eventually we decided that rather than it sitting in a dark hole where nobody gets to see it, turn this place into something that can actually do some good for some people instead of just being somebody's collection. So we founded the Marconi Automotive Museum and Foundation for Kids and converted this to a full-on museum as you see here, and it houses all of our cars from our history. So we're going to cruise on through here. Right now we're in what's called the motorcycle alley. Both my grandfather and my father were very big riders. They really enjoyed riding motorcycles, specifically Ducatis. There's a lot of stuff from history. There's also a lot of bikes here that are donated. So we do get some vehicles donated because we are a nonprofit. And so there'll be a handful in here. I'll mention it if they aren't part of the original. So take a look around and then we're going to cruise in through here.
What's your first name?
My first name is Colt.
Colt? Colt, so quick question.
Yes, ma'am. This is amazing.
Okay, we're going to start, we're going to be moving counterclockwise, starting with this beautiful Ferrari Daytona. This one has a very interesting history. Massive front engine Ferrari. This one was originally spec'd out by Sonny Bono for Cher. And when it was time to take delivery, he found out that she was seeing Greg Allman at the time from the Allman Brothers, and he decided that he did not want it anymore. And so it moved from dealership to dealership, and we purchased it in the 90s for probably about $140,000. And right now it's currently valued at about $5 million. That's what we were, the last time we were offered was $5 million. So very beautiful car. However, it probably would have been really difficult for Cher to drive because there is no power steering, and it is a V12 with that front axle, and you need to be an absolute Goliath to turn that wheel. It's actually quite difficult at slow speed. Next to that, this is the 550 Maranello. Not exactly the most, sporty Ferrari ever made, but as far as the most comfortable one, this is our favorite in the museum to drive for anything longer than a quick trip. This is a true Grand Touring GT car. Very, very comfortable and still quite fast. Moving along over here, this is a 92 Ferrari Mondial T. Mondial is commonly known as the cheapest Ferrari you can buy. They're valued around $60,000 right now. And they're still quite quick, around 300 horsepower. Visually, it's also maybe not the most appealing Ferrari, kind of looks like an old Saturn or something. But it's definitely drawn me. It's a lot of fun to drive, and it is 70s and 80s and stuff. Next to that, we have the 95 Ferrari F50. Of course, everyone knows the F50. It's an absolutely gorgeous car for Ferrari's 50th anniversary. Truly a combination of luxury and race car. The F40 is normally right next to where the Mondial is, but the F40 is on the rack in the service station, and we'll see that towards the end of the tour. But absolutely gorgeous car, currently valued around $5 as well. And then probably our crown jewels of the museum are these two. So this is a 456 Spider Venice, and this is the Ferrari FX. Both of these cars were custom built in a very short run for the Sultan Brunei by Pininfarina. There were, I believe, 5 of these and 5 of these. Each one were different colors. These are the only 2 that did not make it to Brunei. And this is pretty much the only place on the planet. This is the only place on the planet you can see an FX. If you were to Google this car, essentially the only pictures you'd ever see were ours. Because it's the only one that is not running in a jungle. The Venice is one of the very rare convertibles that used a hydraulic convertible system out of Porsche at the time, actually. It's a very interesting car with a beautiful master interior done by Pininfarina. The FX here is based off of a Testarossa body and engine drivetrain. However, this is quite possibly the very first production car in existence to have a paddle shift system. They paid Williams Grand Prix and Pininfarina $1 million in the 90s to convert a paddle shift system to this car. It is the only car with the system out of the 5 FXs that were made, and it is the best paddle shift. So just $1 million, just for the drivetrain, just for the shifting. It burned through like 40 clutches while they were trying to tune it. I don't have values for these because they've never been sold, so we don't know what they're worth, but we estimate 5 to 10 each car. Extremely unique cars, absolutely gorgeous paint jobs, especially the Venice. You can see it has an absolutely gorgeous, deep green. Over here in the corner, standing a little bit unobtrusively, is Ferrari 195S. If you are Ferrari people, you will know just how cool this car is. This one is actually serial number 53. It's the 53rd Ferrari ever made. This car was raced by my grandfather and my father in a race called the Mille Miglia in Italy. It is a vintage race, so it's 1,000 kilometers. And if you know anything about Mille Miglia, they don't allow everybody in. And when they do allow people in, they certainly don't allow a lot of Americans in, because it's kind of an Italian and European thing. So they purchased this car in the hopes that they would get in. But they didn't want to start the restoration, because obviously restoring a vintage Ferrari is very expensive, until they knew for certain. They found out 3 months beforehand. And so they pounded a 3-year restoration to a period of 3 months, and then went and drove an endurance race with it. So things were definitely falling apart and coming off, and they were underneath it with, as my sister says, bubble gum and paper clips every night to keep it running. But they did complete it, they did finish it, and when it got here, it got its full proper restoration. Here it sits. This one is currently valued at probably like 6 or 7, maybe 8 million. Very likely got some stuff on the wall there, the little display on it for the also a watch for finishing the wheels. This is a 355 Berlinetta. We have 2 of these currently in the museum. This one's a very special one. Does anyone know anything about the Ferrari Challenge race? Have you ever heard of it? So Ferrari puts on the Challenge race. Essentially, it is a gentleman's race for Ferrari owners and amateur racers as well as some professionals. They essentially take a stock Ferrari off the shelf, put a roll cage in it, 4-point harness, and racing brakes, and then they send you on your way. And it's basically part promotion, part fun, and allows people to go out there and race. My father did the 348 challenge and won the U.S. and World Championships, and went to Italy to go race and beat the Italians on their home turf. And one of the rewards for getting to finish and beat that race was you're being allowed to spec out your own 355. So this one has the F50 racing seats in it, red on black with black wheels and fly yellow color. So this is the only 355 with the spec, all Marconi spec basically want. Extremely unique, it's actually one of the three. And then we have 3 Thunderbirds right now. If you're a T-Bird person, that's awesome. We have a really gorgeous one here with this absolutely stunning turquoise and white interior, which is gorgeous. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, moving on. This is our F1 wall. We have a lot of F1 cars from various F1, F2, Formula 5000. This is probably our most famous. We've got Michael Schumacher, Nigel Mansell, and the legend Ayrton Senna, of course, up top. These are all driven and raced. Nigel Mansell, of course, famously ended his career by hitting the wall backwards, disconnecting his organs from the rib cage, which is pretty cool. F1 racing is pretty sick. We have, of course, one of the most iconic cars of all time, not necessarily the best car. DeLorean from DeLorean, another company famous for Back to the Future, of course. Very interesting car, very interesting deciding to do body in stainless steel, and I'm sure a lot of Cybertruck owners are discovering just how hard it is to keep a stainless steel car clean. The original manual actually suggests you clear through clean with denatured alcohol, or you can find that in gasoline, but not water. Which is right. We're going to keep doing it this way. I'll get to all the cars in the middle of the museum a little bit later, once we're done doing our full lap here. But then we have Lamborghini's first four-door vehicles. These seventh generation cars, Lamborghini has really advanced, and they're not competitively. You could say it's a very unique style. Very long. Just actually check out from here. You can almost come up here and get it. But it is not a 2+2, it's a 2-4-seater. Model it. Next to that, we have the Dino 260 GTS. We call it a Ferrari Dino, some people say that's a misnomer, it's still manufactured by cars in the fall. Dino was originally the brainchild of Ferrari son Dino. He really wanted to make a V6 D8 sports car for a common man who doesn't know before. And we did it like that. He died with the Ferrari brand and really wasn't what he was standing for. Dino got very sick and actually died. And during that time, when he was in the hospital, they worked on some prototyping. He actually designed the engine. And on some easy, created the Dino marquee and started manufacturing a cheaper V6 and V8. This is really an example of what we call appreciated value. Dinos used to be kind of, I don't know if anyone knows anything about Dinos, but they used to be kind of the auto of the day. An inexpensive car, you get 15, 18 grand, you can go run into vintage races, it's a lot of fun to drive. They have, in the last 30 years, gone absolutely ballistic. We have a root beer brown one in there that we bought for $17,000 in the 90s. They're currently worth upwards of $250,000. So just because the car's not valuable now doesn't mean it's not going to be in the future, but I need to tell you. Right next to that, we have actually a very recent donation from a good friend of ours. It's Tustin 280TX. This is a 10-year special anniversary edition with the two-tone gold black livery. It's got a few nice upgrades, but most of the biggest upgrades were to the interior. It's all nice and leather. I'm a big fan of old Japanese car, not everyone is. And then moving along this way, this is one of our most unique cars in the museum, other than the Brunei car. Well, this is the Brunei car itself. This is a Suzuki Rotor V16T. So some people may not have heard of this car, and I'm not surprised. There were only 11 of them ever made. This was the brainchild of Claudio Zampoli. He used to work for Lamborghini, and he always dreamed of creating his own supercar with his own engine in mind. And so he spent an obscene amount of money back in the 80s. He spent, again, more than $1 million designing and manufacturing his own proprietary engine. It is a transverse-mounted V16. And obviously, if you know a V16 is longer than a W16. Way before we got here did. So if you got camshaft how long, it's gonna snap. You know what I mean? It's got to be this freaking long. So to counter that, they came up with having driven through the middle. And actually, it's two camshafts, basically two V8s butted together. When it runs, it sounds like nothing you've ever heard before, just constant gurgling and drumming. An extremely unique car. Very famous as well for its headlights. It has 4 pop-up headlights. It looks like a spider. It's very, very cool. Claudio is now passed. Unfortunately, he was, we're Italian. He was extremely Italian, and so he made a lot of enemies and he didn't like to listen to constructive criticism, unfortunately. And he actually made an enemy of Jay Leno. Jay Leno was the spokesperson for this car when it was revealed at the LA Auto Show. He had this whole crazy song and dance for and everything. Long story short, burned a lot of bridges, made a lot of enemies. He passed away not too long ago. We became very good friends with him before he did. But this is the legacy he left behind. It is an incredible car. This one specifically has its own special history. This was one of 3 Cezettas ordered by the Brunei royal family. 2 of them were never shipped. Neither was this one. This one was actually converted from the V16 because, again, we only have 11 cars and 11 motors. There's not a lot of QC involved. There's not a lot of time for testing and troubleshooting. So they had a few issues. This one was actually converted by Pininfarina to take a Ferrari 512M Testarossa motor and drivetrain. So this no longer has a 16-cylinder in it, and it's actually been permanently converted. It can no longer accept its original motor. So that makes it, in its own way, even more unique. So one of my absolute favorites, I would say extremely understated. A fun fact about this car, this body line, unfortunately we can't really see it directly from the side, but this body line is one of the original 4 designs that Gandini put forward for the Lamborghini Diablo. And right at that time, Lamborghini was acquired, they were going bankrupt, and I think it was Chrysler, whoever bought them, said, okay, pump the brakes, no weird stuff, keep it normal, and they actually went with the much more toned down design that we see today for the Diablo. But this is the Diablo we couldn't have. Moving along next to it, this is a Mazda RX-7 FD. Very, very cool car. If you're a Japanese car, this car is not powered by cylinders, it's powered by rotors. So it's always on the power stroke, angry little triangles in there. Extremely hot, shoots real big flames out the back. It's probably one of my favorite problems we have. Moving down this way, I don't know if anyone here, obviously we're all German guys here, we enjoy the German cars. If anyone's a fan of American cars, we have our Z06 race car here that's used in the track. This one is a full custom front carbon splitter and APR big wing in the back there. Forged racing wheels with custom V-locks because we were generating too much downforce and shifting our tire on the wheel. This one we use for anything time attack, just fun days. The license plate reads GT3 year. You know, if anyone wants to go and test that, we'd love to see a little sprint, okay? We'd love to see it. But yeah, this one makes about 600 horsepower at the crank, 4 forged billets, parts, titanium off at the wheel. It's a lot of fun, really loud. We actually just got a Formula Z 3D printed Z-pipe for it for my dad's birthday. So we're going to be installing that soon. Down this way we have quite a few cars. This Bel Air is actually the exact model of the Bel Air that my grandfather drove here from Gary, Indiana, when we moved to California originally. And this was actually one of our last gifts that we found for the birthday. Above that is Plymouth's Last Gasp from the Prowler. Extremely iconic. Quite a quick car, all things considered. It was just maybe a little ahead of its time, maybe a little behind its time, I don't know. But the fun fact about the Prowler is it has actually a fully custom emblem that most people have never seen before, imprinted on the steering wheel. It's got it's like a pouncing cat. We got a 428 Mustang Mach 1 here. Over there in the corner, we have my grandfather's Bentley Turbo RL. He bought that new, inspected out in Britain, had it shipped over to the Lufthansa jet. We talked about the crewing value. Now we're going to talk about depreciation. Adjusted for inflation, that car was $440,000 new. Did anyone have any wild guess as to what it's worth right now?
I think Matt Ferraris sold for like 38.
Man, I wish. Last time we checked it, 15 grand. What it has to spell, the thing is if you have a luxury car with a ton of proprietary luxury parts on it, like a hyper-complicated hydraulic suspension system that requires a special tool and special oil, you don't drive it much, and when it breaks, there's no parts. But that's my brother's baby, because that's his favorite. BMW guys, we have a Euro spec M635 CSI up there, absolutely gorgeous. That one was also a donation. That one does not get driven much. We drive the American spec M6 much more because it was a barn find. This one is far too nice to take out and risk getting dinged or smacked in the horrible California traffic. In the corner, we have a Foxfire engine. Aaron's Foxfire engine. That was a very interesting gift from my grandfather to my brother. Yeah, we have about to go over there soon. Originally, it was, since the story goes, it was the very first time my grandfather was ever alone with my brother, and it was taken out for his 56th birthday. And he's like, yeah, we'll be back in an hour. And then 10 hours later, they couldn't find anyone, and my dad was freaking out, mom was freaking out. We got the Motorola brick phone, trying to call my grandfather. He's not picking up. And they pull into the parking lot here with that on the trailer. And we're like, Dick, what the hell's going on? He's like, oh, I got a fire detector, Johnny, what do you think? And so we had to knock that wall out, put a bigger door in to get this in here. And we parked it there, and there it sat for 30 years. And there was also no power steering on it. So you have the boiler, not the boiler, you have the pressure chamber, and that massive motor over those axles. You had to be ripped to drive this car. My dad had to, he's not a huge guy, but he was in really good shape. He had to crank out with both hands. Up top here we have a big awesome Pantera, one of the two we have in the museum. One of my favorite, we got the worked out by Shelby himself before he passed. The inside of the hood is signed. Really, really, really cool. This one here specifically is my baby. I'm not a Mustang guy, but I love the Boss. 69 Boss 02. I have very, very good childhood memories working on this with my dad. And I think it's the biggest, the meanest, the nastiest Mustang there ever is. And I think it's pretty sick. Up top we have everyone's favorite, the Widowmaker. Touch Viper. A lot of those got wrapped around a lot of trees and a lot of light posts because most people didn't realize that a VTEC with no traction control, no ABS, no assist is a little dangerous to drive. So that's pretty fun. Yeah, we don't take that one out as often. The oldest car in the museum is a 1930 Simplex sprint car. Back when racing was really racing, when your brake was outside of the vehicle on a lever and you had to prime the fuel system with a pump to get it rolling, to get inside. Very, very cool car. We actually just got this finished up and running, so we're right now. Sweet. Morris Mini, this one was driven by my mom. My mom took up racing for a little while when they first got married, and she told me every single time she raced around town because she decided to retire from that and spend more time with the kids instead after the shifter came off in her hand and didn't race anymore. So that's now where it sits. We have a couple more the 5000s, this one is Chevron B39. This was my dad's favorite car to drive. 100% unbeaten racing ever did. Two lap records still at Willow Springs and in Seca in this one. Still have those. One of our two test races. Very, very cool. We got a lovely this one actually just went out to the car show this morning. I probably brought it back just now. Engine formant is open in the back. It's really seen how it works. Extremely iconic, especially because that's something show a lot of that. This on the booster, I still have right here, we have the absolute legend of the 80s, Lamborghini Countach. This one is the American spec Countach 25th anniversary edition. So I actually just finished doing a write-up on this car because I'm currently in the process of rewriting all the classes of last year. This one is in most people's opinion, the most desirable as far as a driver's car. It has a lot of improvements. It has improvements in power steering. It has improvements in the chassis. It was actually in conjunction with the whole thing with the rattle driver from the design steering. Has better air conditioner. Has better sound. A lot of little creature comforts. It's got the same power as the last year, but it has all the nice luxury. It's got power windows, power seats, So it's truly the driver's car. It's really comfortable, luxurious, super nice. This was also redesigned. The outside arrow then it was redesigned by Horatio Design back in the day. It's actually the biggest thing going behind me. Makes me very sad. She's pretending that's not there. I tried to. I mean, technically, I have heard from some people, most people took their U.S. bumpers off, so it's collectible with bumper on. I think that's gross. But we got to keep the story accurate. Speaking of crazy history, up top we have my father's 348 challenge car that I mentioned earlier that we want to drive. Absolutely liberated. We wanted to make sure it was visible from anywhere on the track. My father very famously was accused of cheating every single time he drove anywhere and did anything because he was really, really good at it. And they took his car apart so many times and it was constantly full of politics. That was actually one of the reasons my dad stopped racing professionally is the politics. Everyone's politicking, everyone's, it's always he said, she said, boys club, girls club, it's you got to be part of this or that, the other thing. And so our famous slogan is actually on the back, it's just shut up and drive. We got really, really, really sick. I know we have some BMW fans in here. I'm sure we can't get them. The absolute legend of BMW. M1, gorgeous. In fact, well, maybe to some people, the engine in this actually ended up in the 635 up there, slightly modified. And to a lesser extent, the M6 after it was neutered by US smaller engines. Fix that on that. Here's the other 355 on top. This is an F12 we actually just acquired. A friend of ours unfortunately passed away, and we're going to keep it here for a little while. But this is probably the newest car in the whole museum. We're more than 90 inches, I'm sure you guys can tell. But yeah, still a very comfortable car, very cool. And then of course, who could forget? 300 SL, absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful
Oh, you mean that $80,000 where you take it out and refresh it for me?
Probably do, but yeah, I'm sure they have. Well, it's one of those, right? You never have enough. There is something about the beautiful, what year? 80 something? 86.
Because not only do you learn how to drive around the track, you also learn extremely important skills for driving in California specifically, as in predicting people, reading people's driving language, being able to look ahead of you, not just exactly what's in front of you, but look 3 turns ahead for danger and trouble. So it's very graphic. It's one of the things I actually recommend, especially when being tours with kids. If you ever get the chance, go to racing school. Because not only can you have a really good time, but it runs super really well. Yeah, when I went to racing school, much less chance of getting dead. I actually promised my mom I would never buy a motorcycle. She said, wait 4 months. So I promised her I would. This one, originally, this is actually the exact car my sister drove. When she went through school, we asked to have first chance out of it, and it was time to sell because racing Corvettes, they don't put a lot of miles, they put like 10, 15,000 on them, because they have a lot more miles, and then they get shipped out and sold. So we kept this one. Bob is unfortunately no longer with us, he passed away. But Bob and Pat signed it down for us, so we put it here as a memorial to us. And then directly behind this gentleman in the fiery orange shirt, we have the Burgundy Beast. This one has a little placard. If once we're done with the tour, you can go back and read it. Essentially, this was bought new by a really good friend of ours, and he then shipped off to Vietnam, came back, was shipped to Germany and Europe. This is 68. Germany and Europe, and he had it shipped over there. He drove it all around while he was stationed out there in Europe, had it shipped back and sat for a really long time. And the very last thing he did before he stopped driving us, is spend probably $100 grand restoring this, not just back for you, but better than it was to you. Better radiator, better motor, Willwood brakes, sound system, but from the outside, it looks tough. And it's an absolute gorgeous car. It's the funniest thing in the world. It's like my Casio watch. We have $10 million cars in here, but for some reason, this Burgundy Mustang base model didn't even spring for the extra mirror. Gets more questions and comments than anything else. I just can't forget about it. Very, very cool. Next to that, in the absolutely eye-gouging sassafras green, is our other That's my mom's car. Originally, we were restoring it for practice. My brother is a certified car and car restoration specialist. He ran his own restoration business. And this was a car that we were restoring, and my mom had come down to drop off some parts in the garage down the house. We were getting delivered all day, every day. And she's like, wow, that green is so nice. I love that so much, John. Is this ours? And my dad's like, oh, no, this is for a client. This is working on it. Vincenzo is working on this. And she's like, oh, man, it would be really cool to have. And after hearing that, my dad is kind of a hopeless romantic in that regard. My mom made an offhand comment, and we were just like, do it. And so we purchased it, gave it to her as a gift on Christmas Day. It had 2 burnt valves in it. And so it was not running well. Give it to her as a gift on Christmas Day morning. And then before Christmas dinner, my brother and my dad had swapped a 340 motor into it to go rip. And my mom on Christmas evening went up and did some burnouts and donuts in the street with her new sassy grass green Barracuda. And the license plate on this one reads Sassy Fish. This is Barracuda. Fun little thing there. Down there is probably the craziest keeper we have in the whole set. That's a Resto Mod. I'm sure you can tell those wheels are not stock and it's not a stock pipe. It's absolutely gorgeous purple paint. The door handles actually been removed. And it's got a crash panel. Inside the engine compartment, it looks like jewelry. Absolutely gorgeous, all chrome, all anodized, just flawless. Absolutely gorgeous. And then next to that is our AMC Rambler. This was donated by a good friend of ours, Scott. This was built, tuned, and customized by Anvil Speed Shop. It is a 402 cubic inch monstrous motor on a big block. And it is extremely fast in a straight line. However, it does handle like a brick. I would wager that a third of the value of this car is in the paint. Absolutely gorgeous candy flake paint. You cannot see it anymore. It looks exactly. It looks like a freaking bass boat. I love it. Very patriotic. And then over here in the corner, where we just were recently, we have the Batmobile from Batman Returns from the film, and then we also have Kit from Knight Rider. These are both from the show, from the movie. That is the only one from the film. And Knight Rider, that was from the first 2 seasons with David Hasselhoff. This was the hero car. Originally, a little bit later, it was converted to be self-driving. So essentially, they had a chain rigged up and extra pedals, where the person would sit in the passenger seat on the floor and wear a costume that looked like a something. And they would drive from the floorboard so it looked like Kit was driving up to rescue him. It was then converted back for the LA Auto Show, and this is the state you see. It's very, very good. A lot of people have a lot of really great memories with Kit. If there's any Jaguar aficionados among you, I can't say for sure. This is probably one of the rarest Jaguars in existence. This is the Jaguar XJ220S. There were only 5 220Ss ever made. Each one was a different color. This car was originally designed, the original XJ220, not the S, was designed to bridge the gap with Jaguar between their long cars and their street cars, because at the time their long cars looked nothing like anything you could buy. Looked nothing like a Jaguar. So originally they were designed in the XJ220 to have the lines of a street Jaguar in a race car. Long story short, they wanted to make it a production car. Jaguar higher-ups weren't hearing it. So the designer, along with 12 volunteers on their own time, designed and scaled up the model and did the aerodynamic testing to bring it to Jaguar and see, like, look, this can work, please let us do it. The XJ220 is a lot more luxury. It has pop-up headlights, leather interior. This is the S. This is a street legal race car. Like I said, they only made 5. That plaque says 6, was actually, they only made 5. It has one of the very first single-piece carbon fiber fiberglass weave body, so the entire body comes off as a single piece. The pop-up headlights were removed and replaced with rigid headlights covered by clear perspex. The seats were removed, the leather seats removed in favor of very thin vinyl seats. There is no AC, there is no sound system. It is an extremely, extremely angry car, and it is pretty ahead of its time in its own way, because back in the day it was all about big displacement, big displacement, more horsepower. And nowadays it's all about high pressure, low displacement. This is actually a twin-turbo V6, and it absolutely kicked the snot out of pretty much anything it went up against. Famously, the 220 was supposed to denote its top speed. However, it was never confirmed. Jaguar said it reached 220, but independent testing only reached 217. So this car makes almost 550 horsepower from a 1996 V6, which is pretty gnarly. And then behind you is my grandfather's Testarossa he bought new. So this is one of the first generations. You can see it's got the car phone in it, very 80s. One of the first generations, I don't know if any of you know much about Testarossas, but originally they only came with one mirror, and it was called the flying mirror, which was halfway up the A pillar there. It looked like crap. It was really weird, really hard to use. My grandfather was blind in his left eye, so he couldn't see it anyway. And he's like, Johnny, my dad, can you fix this goddamn mirror? Because I can't see shit. He wanted it down lower so he could look over, because otherwise he has to turn his whole head to see out of that mirror. And he's like, and I want one for the right side. And he's like, well, Pops, there is no mirror for the right side. There's only a left side mirror. They don't exist. He's like, yeah, just make it happen. So my father took the right side mirror to an artist, a clay sculptor that we knew, and he built a mirrored version of it out of clay, and then had it made out of fiberglass. And this is probably the first Testarossa that had 2 mirrors. And then next year they came out on the right side mirror, which was unfortunate. It's funny, I told that story, and we had a British guy in here from the UK, and he said, well, in the UK they came with a mirror on the other side. And I told my dad that, and he's like, God damn it. I went through all that work, so that mirror is actually not a factory Ferrari mirror. You'll never be able to tell that. And then over there in the corner, we kind of brushed over it. The incredibly famous General Lee, no really introduction needed. That is from the show and the film, and it's signed by the cast in the back, and it does have the horn in it, which is cool. I'll shoot that. Since we're all here. Killed a lot of beautiful Chargers, which is really unfortunate. But I don't try to let it bother me too much. A little bit correct these days. supercharger. This one is non-supercharger. This one's got a longer package. There's no crimson. There's not yet. It's muscle car. I think they actually swapped it out. Yeah, I know this one, but this was the one that
Lines up with the other one, and then torque it down on the other side, or they pop off under high pressure.
Yeah, very big set now. All right, we're going to move into the race shop, everybody. There's a couple cars. Any questions still in the car? Excellent.
New California.
And unfortunately, my grandfather's wife at the time did not like the tractor, didn't think it fit in the museum, so it was moved into his garden, and it sat there for 30 years. And then we pulled it out and put oil in it, and it started on the first trip. That thing is a beast. This is the service bay. This is where my brother Vince, Vincenzo, goes through and restores all his cars. He's a certified Ferrari technician and a master muscle car restoration. Right now we have our hyper custom Dayton Muscle Pantera L with 15-inch meats on it. Those freaking tires back there. This car is extremely custom. It's actually a legend in the Pantera community. There's a Pantera Club. Everybody knows this car. It is a custom long discotheque purple paint job. 100% custom fender flares to accommodate the big massive tires in the back. And the entire back trunk cover has been pulled out to make room for that 428 side loader Cobra. It also has a 50-pound nitrous pump. So it was originally spec'd to 1,000 horsepower. We have not confirmed that because the transmission went in. When my grandfather purchased it, the guy told us, all right, Dave, do not lay it down unless you're in second gear, you can go like 30 or 40. Driving cars before you're running the whole thing. And we pulled out and laid it down and blew the transmission in. Literally cracked the bell housing and bang like that. And we ended up spending more to fix the transmission than we spent on the actual car. Right next to it we have probably the most famous car in existence, the F40. Right now we're doing a fuel cell repair because a lot of people don't know the fuel cells, especially the cars like the McLaren F1 and things like that, need to be replaced every so often. I think McLaren's every 3 years. Ferrari, the ones that we buy the really nice ones, it's every 10. But there was a small leak in the fuel cell, so we have it sent off to the laboratory right now, and they're currently resealing it for us, and it'll be sent back in return. Ferrari F40s have 2 fuel tanks. So. And then behind you guys, we have a couple more interesting cars. We have another purple 348 there that was driven by my grandfather's wife, Bo, in the 348 Challenge that she drove. Next to that, that root beer brown car, that is another Dino. My father is extremely partial to Dinos. He's always loved them. That one was actually purchased from a guy who was attempting to use it for vintage racing. And he custom fabricated a mount, and he was trying to convert it from carbureted to a 911 fuel injection system. It never worked, but it was pretty freaking cool the amount of work that he put in trying to make it work. So we're converting it back now. Right now it's going through a lot of stuff. The engine's being totally rebuilt. So it's up there for the time being because the Ferrari today. And then we have Over there along the corner, we have a couple customer cars. We've got the two Corvettes, C5 and C6. And then we have that Subaru over there, that WRX in its natural habitat, which is not running. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's, and then up on the wall, we have a world record breaking top fuel dragster up there. That broke the quarter-mile record at 301.7 miles an hour. I think it's 10,000 horsepower. Yeah, those kind of cars, those kind of engines have to be rebuilt every single race because they basically melt their engine. Is anyone familiar with the brand DJI? Anyone ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured you would. You seem like it. You seem like it on Twitter. You've recognized quite a few things. This was the very last car that DJI ever made. This is the only one in existence. It's the evolution. There's very little information on it. It does not exist online. You don't. There's nothing. It was built. It was hand built over the course of 10 or 15 years, and we're currently trying to help the owner finish it. Essentially, and that will end up here. But very interesting car, and I look forward to riding a little right up on it when it's done. But for now, it's a little bit hush hush.
What's the engine?
It's V12 Ambient.
What year was it?
What's that?
What year was it?
It isn't. It doesn't have a year because it took 10 years to build. So it's a combination of 90s and 2000s styling, and they did best or worst of both worlds.
And the chassis is custom?
Yeah, 100% custom chassis. The entire car, other than the transmission and engine, is all hand built. What were you going to say, Mary?
What's the industry unboxing car?
Boxing cars, so Chuck Bodak was my grandpa was a two-time Golden Glove champion boxer. And Chuck Bodak became good friends, and he was a famous boxing cut man for like Sugar Ray Leonard and Oscar De La Hoya and a bunch of other really famous boxers back in the day. And eventually he got a little bit too old to be doing that, and my grandfather sort of adopted him, I guess. He's like this little old man. Really, really cool guy, and he was extremely interesting. He had a very interesting style. That was what he did called the deco polish. And the entire car is covered in snippets and cuts. Both front bumpers are completely dented in from women sitting on it to take pictures. That was his favorite thing. He actually lived here at the museum for many years before he passed away. But yeah, everything he owns is like that, where it's all just stuff glued together, things stuck together. It's definitely artistic.
How'd you get the regular red card kind of?
That is a very interesting car. When you pull that one down, that one's next on the restoration. It's a Marcos. It's a Marcos. Yeah, very rare car. And a lot of people, Marco's very famous for their racing vehicles, not so much for their civilian day-to-day stuff. But that one is also over here for most of the stuff up here, because we got like early F1 cars and stuff. We obviously never drive or start the F1 cars because it's a nightmare to get them running and where you can drive it. But yeah, Marcos, it's on the list of stuff. It's probably going to be after the 300. Is there any other questions? By the way, does anyone want to buy an 80s Bronco? Anyone ever decided to take Bronco with there? Anyone have any other questions for me?
How do you get the cars up there?
We used a forklift with a special front mount. We used a forklift that's meant for shipping. Really big ones, so it has super long tines, and then there's a special padded mount so it doesn't damage the manufacturer. Oh yeah, 100%. My dad is extremely focused with that. You can drive pretty much anything with wheels. That is definitely one way to put it. Yeah, now anything with an engine, you just immediately, you just, you know what I mean? Motorcycles with dirt bikes, cars, trailers, planes. Yeah, of course. It was yours. But he went home to, he likes to take Saturdays, and he's been taking more time off from that. He's going to be 70 soon. He'll be here all the time. The brand, to be honest with you, I don't know what the lists are. These are our four lowest lists. We have the very same ones that are housed in Linda. But yeah, we realized very quickly we were running out of space. So we started putting all the cars on lifts. And as a bonus, often you get to see the underside of an F40 or a Testarossa, you know what I mean? Warts and all. Because we're a really big fan of that. It's like we want to make sure other museums don't be like, oh yes, it's such a beautiful car. I'm like, no, it has a lot of problems, you know, from the factory. It's a bad design, bad this. We really like to explain to you the good and the bad about every car. You know what I mean? No sugarcoat. Like the DeLorean.
I love talk bad. Because my brother won't even work on it.
It runs. It's just, God, it's such a great. No, Anyone else? Any questions? Okay, well, I really appreciate all of you guys coming here. I really appreciate you guys have been great. You've been very, very polite. I really appreciate that. Everyone's been very attentive, which is awesome. And we really hope to, have you guys come back. Because unfortunately, regrettably, you'd come 2 weeks earlier. We could have seen the CLK GTR Roadster, $14 million Mercedes. Yeah, we had it here for 2 months. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so Devin, the owner, a good friend of ours, he moved it out to go take it to some kind of show, and then in its place we're probably going to be getting 2 Apollos. So there's an Apollo and a hypercar, but we're going to get 2 of those instead. He's one of our storage clients, and he always stores he's got the wildest, craziest, Pagani 101s and all kinds of other stuff. He's that guy, and so it's always nice to have a nice little centerpiece in the museum. So. But yeah, no, unfortunately, when you get to see OK, I'm very sorry, but that would have been pretty sweet because a bunch of Mercedes heads.
Is this your own building?
Yeah, this is our own. Yeah, we have this in the parking lot and our little side thing there. But, I don't know yet. My dad really likes it. It has you can't see it from the outside, it has this absolutely gorgeous, deep navy blue with red stitch interior. Really, really cool. My dad's kind of partial to it. We're not really sure. We may or may not. Because we're also kind of helping here, because he's a really good friend of ours, helping us get rid of it. So it's one of those things where if we have trouble selling or nobody wants it, we may pick it up. You know what I mean? It's a cool car, but it's a little modern for our tastes. You know what I mean? We don't really do. We've never really owned new cars in the family. I think my first new car we bought in 30 years was my dad's F-250 he just got, because his Duramax got totaled, so it's a shame.
Tell us more about your foundation.
Well, you said,
Why the lack of Porsches?
I couldn't hear you.
Why the lack of Porsches?
That's a great question. I'm not going to say that. He said that. I'm not going to say that. My dad has always liked the air-cooled Porsche Seal 911s and the whale tail, the whole thing, but we just haven't found one that we really like that we bring in. Because we operate primarily on donations. We don't buy a lot of cars. It's mostly by donation. It's one of those things where no one's come along with a Porsche. My dad's always liked Porsches, but he's definitely a BMW Mercedes guy. So as far as German cars go, he definitely respects them, but a little friendly competition with GT3 RSs, kicking their ass with a car that's literally an eighth of the value of theirs. It's always a good time. What was your question here?
I wanted you to talk some more about your foundation.
Yeah, so the Marconi Foundation for Kids. So this entire place is a 501c3 nonprofit. All of the cars are owned by the foundation. They're not owned by us personally. And they're all used to generate money. So we're primarily an event facility. When we aren't open to the public, we can house up to 300 to 350 people in here, fully catered, weddings, bar mitzvahs, a lot of corporate galas and things like that. And we used to do high school stuff, not anymore, that was a little sketchy. Kids and stuff, oh god, I can tell you some horror stories. But it's also a lot of celebrations of life, funerals, things like that. We do weddings too, occasionally. And then all that money goes to help local charities in Orange County. We do Beyond Blindness, Shriners. Really, really big one that's super important to us is Mary's Path. I don't know if any of you have heard of Mary's Path, but they help abused and trafficked women, specifically women with children, 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds that have kids. Really horrible stuff. But that one's one that's super important to us. Yeah. And then we also do one of our biggest ones of the year is the toy drive. So we do a giant toy drive. Last year we raised $125,000 for toys. Our entire giant white race trailer out in the parking lot, that was full to the top, all the way back with toys. We actually partnered with Walmart, and this year we're partnering with Mattel directly. So we're going to be able to get everything at a discount so we can make that dollar stretch farther. And then we take the trailer and we make our rounds and our laps around to every highway patrol, every orphanage, every charity, to the point where last year it took us 3 weeks to get rid of everything because everyone's like, we can't take any more toys, there's too many. So that's a really good feeling. And then every year we've grown on the charity. Last year the year before last we did 70,000. My dad's like, we're doing 100. I'm like, oh dad, calm down, dude. That's a big jump, and we blew that out of the water. And this year we're hoping to do probably 150. But yeah, we have a lot of fun with that. We actually loaded the trailer so full of toys we bent the axles, which is pretty freaking sweet. We overloaded, so we're really excited about that. It's a really cool feeling. And it's I'll tell you a little bit about my great grandfather had a saying. It was learn, earn, return. So you learn as much as you can while you can, you earn as much as you can while you can, and then when you've earned all you can, and it's time to retire, you return. You give that back to your community and the people around you, and try and make a difference before you die. You know what I mean? And so that's something super important to us. That was instilled in my father, and that my father instilled that in us. And so philanthropy is super important.
Post that as a slogan somewhere.
Oh yeah, we have. We're actually working on a rebrand right now with some of that stuff. That's in a lot of our paperwork. If on your way out you guys want to stop at the office, there's a little pamphlet card there on the left side, a little stand that tells our story. If you're interested in hearing more about it. But yeah, no, the whole point of all of this is, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge car enthusiast, but this is all to help people. That's the most important part of us.
It's very American.
Excellent.
We don't have that
Kind of energy, yeah. Yeah, Americans love charities and tipping really big for some reason. Yeah, tipping culture, yeah. Yeah, my lady's from Switzerland, and she's like, every time we go out, she's like, why do you tip so much? It's just what you do, man. I don't know what to tell you. She's like, this is so wrong.
No, but you know, to work in street hard to build something and then give back to the community.
100%.
Enterprise that supports so much.
Exactly. Well, it's just been really important to us because, again, especially like the Salt of Brunei and other, might I say, rich dickheads, they tend to collect cars and hide them away. Nobody ever gets to see them, no one ever gets to look at them, and we think that is absolutely wrong. And so, like, again, it was kind of a no-brainer that at the very least wanted to make this collection beautiful for you. So, yeah. What's that? Yeah, by the time exactly, and then they did the selected. Oh yeah, exactly. So yeah, this place is pretty much fully staffed by my family. My sister's the CEO and the curator. I'm security and automotive historian here. I do all the write-ups for the cars. My brother is the technician who works on everything, and then my dad is just my dad. He does everything and everything. He's got chairman of the board, and he's heart and soul of the museum. He keeps the dream alive. And he goes out and counts people for donations to Twitter. He's real good at that. He's like, come on, I just want to give kids to us. Got another zero on there. Come on. You know, he's real good at guilting people that don't like to spend money into the last year. He's really good. Any other questions? We finished right on time.
Well, you have to shake right at the beginning, you said.
Well, yeah, I was still 11:15. 11:15 was our time around there, so I want to make sure we were on time. No, we don't. We're very good friends with Peterson. We go over there a couple times a year to go have lunch, hang out with the whole family. But no, we don't typically swap cars in the museum. There are cars that have been here on display that are now in other museums, but it was never traded. It's like, you wanted to store it here, decided to store it there, things like that. But yeah, no, we don't swap. We always have a really good relationship. We try to. Because we're all in this together. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure working with all you guys. Thank you so much for coming out. Mercedes is very close and dear to my heart, so I'm really glad you guys could hang out. Porsche Is he okay? It may come back. I don't know. They might sell it before then. Devin is the kind of guy that buys cars and they value it and sells it.
But they're beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. Something straight to tie me over.
After the push here, you're not supposed to use it. You have to put it on a trailer. So it is, and then when you start it, it's a whole nightmare. It's like having a character. It's like having a whole checklist, all this stuff. It is just
Esto no. Apago de grabar en la 360. Déjame parar aquí. Déjame parar aquí. Marconi.